So let me start over. I'm so happy to be here and so happy to see you all. I have just profound willpower that I have moved my life hundreds of miles when the call from within came. It kind of felt like a choice, but was it? Did I make that choice? As I speak today about searching for God, I wonder, has my spiritual journey been about evolving my strength of will this whole time? Will, as you may know, is one of the 12 creative powers established by Unity Church founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. They wanted to help individuals discover their truth and enhance their spiritual lives. In my opinion, the power of will is needed to make any decision you make. Think about it. You get up in the morning, you decide to go to the washroom, you decide to brush your teeth, or you may decide to have chocolate pancakes. So you are constantly making decisions, but are you making the right decision? The power of will is the ability to choose, lead, and decide. And Unity teachings emphasize that God is everywhere and always present. And that divine energy underlines and animates all of our existence. God's will is not about rigid rules or specific outcomes, but rather about living in alignment with the universal principles of love, truth, and harmony. I'm about to begin my talk now on searching for God, my spiritual journey with the power of will. Do you remember when you first learned of God? How old were you? What was your impression? I'm not sure how I learned about God, but at 5 years old, I made a huge decision that God didn't love me anymore and that I was on my own. I was in kindergarten and I missed the teacher saying it was recess time as I was in the washroom. I came out to an empty classroom and I couldn't find anybody. I looked and they were all outside. That was 55 years ago, and I still remember making that decision. How could God love me if I was left alone like that? Looking back, I know that decision was made based on childhood trauma and hearing loss that I had no words for at that time. Since then, I have been on a quest to find God. I had the will of a 5-year-old to make a major life decision. I had little to no experience attending church as a young child. The story is that I was not baptized in the United Church because my father was an alcoholic and did not go to church. I lived in a small farming community where everybody knows everybody. And then I do remember in grade 5, we were given this little red Bible. I was so proud of it. I was so excited. Did I read it? I don't remember. And then when I was in my early teens, my grandmother had these stories in comic form. It would be like graphic novels these days. And it was all about stories from the Bible. And she would let me borrow one book at a time. I wish I could remember what they were called. It would have been in the mid-70s, late 70s. But all that was me searching for God. I moved to Toronto to go to college when I was 17. My quest for God got overtaken with a rather busy and hectic life. While I did well in college, I started to struggle mentally and did not know how to even acknowledge it. I was struggling with my hearing loss identity. Suddenly, it was more of an issue than ever before. Looking back, I can see that I had undiagnosed PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I was always on, even when I was not working. It was like I was wearing a mask to show everyone that I was just fine. And for the fact that I was actually hiding what was happening inside of me, what I was feeling. It would have been so nice to have a murder grimoire in my life at that time. Someone who could look at me in my eyes, tell me and show me how to reconnect with God. And this is one of Murder's quotes. And she was showing you earlier, Murder has a little booklet called Mornings with Murder Fillmore. And here it goes. Your prosperity comes through you instead of to you. And if it seems not to come, that is because you have thrown up some barriers that prevent its unfoldment through your own consciousness. Only your own changed mental attitude and living habits can cause you to work with God's mind in bringing about transformation. And you will see how that impacted my life. Or if I would have had her, that would have been awesome. But I'm glad I have her now. And I was in my mid-20s when the mask I was wearing started to have hairline cracks. I knew I needed help, and I went to my family doctor. And I was given time off for sick leave. I reached out to the Canadian Hearing Services, and after an initial interview, I was also referred to a psychotherapist. There began a difficult, challenging, and a scary recovery journey. Once I started therapy, all my self-contained emotions came pouring out. I overdosed shortly after my first visit with my therapist. I had no skills on how to turn the tap off. I was put on meds, and that helped me to stabilize a bit. I continued unhealthy coping mechanisms for many years until I was diagnosed with PTSD, a major depressive disorder. I had a few inpatient stays in treatment centers. And during this time, I processed childhood trauma that I had completely blocked out. It was now returning to me in fragments, a little bit of a time. But you know what? Here I am with 30 plus years of recovery under my belt, and I have never felt better. My mask rarely makes an appearance. Even with all my setbacks, I always bounce back up and continue. I knew that, sorry. I knew, excuse me. I have allergies. Even with all my setbacks, I always bounce back up and continue. I knew the journey would lead me somewhere. I had hope. I had strength. I had wisdom. I had understanding, and I had imagination. Charles from Charles, no man. Okay. Charles Fillmore has a great quote on I'm going to mute myself for a second.
Maybe have some water, not cream in your coffee.
Okay, I think I'm good to go now. Thank you for waiting. I had hope, I had strength, I had wisdom, I had understanding, and I had imagination. Charles Fillmore had this great quote on imagination. Imagination gives the man, imagination gives the man the ability to project himself through time and space and rise above all limitations. When I discovered Unity, it was in Toronto. I went there for 5 years before moving to Ottawa. That was about 25 years ago. I don't remember too much as I was still in the midst of my recovery. But in my heart, I knew I was in the right place. When I moved to Ottawa, well, let's just say I did attend one church service, and it was a smaller congregation than in Toronto. I could hide in a crowd in Toronto and not in Ottawa. I never went back. I was still struggling with self-image and confidence. And then in 2024, I found myself struggling again, and I could not put a finger on it. I went to see my therapist as I was feeling low, and I wondered if my medications were not working properly. I would refer to someone who would go over my meds, that I would have a 3-month wait. I felt something was pulling strings on my heart. Next thing I know, I'm on the internet searching for Unity Church, and I sent an email off to inquire about service. I heard back from Rev C, and she gave me the link for the next service. I joined, and I was so moved by that talk that I was actually crying during fellowship time. It was a combination of feeling that I had come home spiritually and that I was not alone. And let me tell you, when the 3 months was up, I got a phone call saying to give me an appointment, and I told them that I no longer needed the appointment. And I explained that I needed spirituality, and that's what I needed. That I've also made some pretty good decisions. Thanks to my power of will. But coming back to Unity has saved me in so many ways. I immediately started to attend field groups, and then I went to attend Rev T's Healing and Wholeness groups, which actually became Friday Night Spiritual Connections. And to borrow a phrase from Dr. Ann, Unity gave me tools, not rules. That helped me to grow spiritually and to blossom where I am today. And I'm not done yet. I have been taking courses towards becoming a licensed Unity teacher. And Rev C has seen leadership skills in me, and I have been grateful for the opportunity to help out on Friday nights at our Spiritual Connections group and to help facilitate services, and now to give talks. And here's another quote that will show how God has helped uplift my spirit in the past year and a half. And it's by one of Unity's greatest authors, Eric Butterworth. There is no such thing as a lack of faith. We all have plenty of faith. It's just that we have faith in the wrong things. We have faith in what can't be done rather than what can be done. We have faith in lack rather than abundance. But there is no lack of faith. Faith is the law. And faith is another power of the 12 powers. I love it. And Unity teachings have encouraged me to cultivate a conscious awareness of my thoughts and feelings, and to choose to align them with the universal principles that I believe are God's will. This involves practicing positive thinking, releasing limiting beliefs, and cultivating a sense of trust in the divine process. It's also been about recognizing that I am a co-creator with God, and that I have the power to manifest my highest potential and create a life of purpose and joy. How have you guided your life to unfold, allowing God's will through? Is there still anything you want to unravel with God? What steps could you take this week to get a little closer to hearing God's will for you? I trust more than ever that I have aligned my will with God's. And all those years of the indwelling God knocking at my door to get right where I am today, and the right timing to expand my leadership, has proven to me that I have always had immense will. And I look forward to years of continuing to bring it forward as I share with you how God inspires me. I am no longer searching for God. I am home.